Last year, I was heading to this lady's house to pet sit after I stopped for gas. Afterwards, I was going to meet one of my friends to have her follow me and stay the night while I dog sat. I stupidly waited until nighttime to get my gas and stopped at the pump farthest from the store. I like to think I'm a pretty observant person, or just completely paranoid, so I immediately noticed an older guy to my right walking around as I waited for my tank to fill up. I politely smiled to avoid awkward eye contact, and he quickly approached me. He stopped a few feet in front of me and said,
"Hey, I was wondering if you could give me a ride. I don't have a car, and I'm not going that far from here."
I said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, I can't." And then he started to get a little agitated, acting strange. I nervously eyed him before he said,
That's alright. I got a granddaughter, and I guess I wouldn't want her picking up strangers either. Have a good night.
I didn't understand why he would ask in the first place if he knew it was creepy, but I shrugged it off, put the cap back on my gas tank, but I didn't take my eyes off him. I got into my car and started driving away. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, I noticed him getting into the driver's side of an old, battered pickup truck parked in an unlit and secluded area of the side of the gas station. I immediately got nervous because he had just told me that he didn't have a car. I was meeting my friend just across the street at the McDonald's, so there wasn't a huge window of opportunity for me to lose him. I kept watching the truck as I parked at the McDonald's and quickly texted my friend to hurry up. As I was sitting in my car, I saw the old truck likewise pull into the McDonald's and go to the opposite side of the parking lot. Nervously, I tried to brush it off as a coincidence, but as I looked back towards where he had parked the truck, I noticed the old man walking around the building to where I was parked. As soon as he saw my car, he crouched down behind a bush, and I assumed he was waiting for me to get out. I started freaking the fuck out, and as soon as my friend pulled in a few seconds later, I told her what had happened, and we hauled ass out of that parking lot as quickly as possible. I will never forget looking over and seeing him crouched in the grass next to the road, waiting for me to leave. Gas station creep, let's not ever meet again. This happened to me yesterday, and I'm still more than a little creeped out. I've had crooked teeth my whole life, and I really hadn't minded it all that much. We couldn't afford braces, so I'd never been to an orthodontist at all. Well, recently, my insurance let us know that if I needed braces, they would pay for most of the cost. My mom jumped at the offer, saying I should straighten my teeth while I have the chance before I'm a legal adult. So, I had my first trip to the orthodontist. I think I should preface this by saying that his office was tiny and looked like an old trailer attached to the side of a larger building. We checked in, were led to a room, and up till that point, everything seemed pretty normal. Before he even came into the room, I heard the orthodontist ask his assistant,
"What about tonight? Do you want to go to dinner tonight?"
Sounding annoyed, she replied, "No, someone is picking me up after work." It sounded like this had happened before. When the orthodontist first came into the room, he looked at me and said,
"What's a cute kid like you doing in a place like this?"
Okay. My mom glanced at me for a minute before talking to the doctor. The whole time, he's just straight up staring at me while she talks to him, until he finally crossed the room to look at pictures of my teeth. He says,
"You have beautiful, beautiful teeth."
At the time, I took it as a compliment, until he went on to repeat it a further 5 times. Then he added,
"Man, I wish those were in my mouth."
The commentary after this was equally weird. He kept saying things like,
"You're already beautiful. Why do you need straight teeth?"
and
"You can't make your teeth straight. You'd have to beat off the boys with a stick."
those were his exact words. Keep in mind, this man is easily 70 years old, and I'm 16, not to mention that I look young for my age. The comment that really kind of topped everything off was when he put his gloves on and then said,
"Alright, I'm gonna slide my fingers in your mouth now. I know they taste good and you can lick, but you can't bite."
Then he started to giggle. What the fuck? Once he'd finally finished groping around the inside of my mouth, he went out to talk to my mom. I heard him repeat at least another 5 times what beautiful teeth I had, and then he finally left. I don't know if I'm overreacting or misinterpreting, but this whole situation really freaked me out. Both my mom and I agreed that we really need to go to another orthodontist. If I can finally figure out a way to see a different one, creepy orthodontist, let's not meet again. I'm a 21-year-old female who lives in a more urban area of Maryland. I had just gotten out of class and was going to head over to my boyfriend Garrett's house to binge some Netflix. He lives in a high-rise apartment building, 14 floors in a penthouse. His building is nice, but has a lot of college kids that attend the local university. You need a key fob to get in if you're a resident, otherwise you have to use this automated machine to call and get buzzed in. Overall, it's always been a pretty secure building because I end up getting stuck outside all the time when my boyfriend isn't paying attention to answer his phone and buzz me in. Because of this, he ended up buying a second fob from the leasing office for me so I could come and go more easily. It was late, about 10 o'clock, so I couldn't park in the resident parking lot as I didn't have a resident parking pass, which are expensive as fuck. The apartment building backs up to a huge parking garage for the mall that's right behind it. I park there because it's free and I know I won't get towed. To get back to the building, I have to walk down this weird little path that runs out from the garage. As I'm walking down the path, I catch a strong whiff of alcohol. I look up and see a guy about my age, standing there smoking a cigarette. He sees me and seems to get excited. He shouts, "Hey, gorgeous," and as I walk by, proceeds to follow me. As I've said, the building is home to a bunch of college kids, so I figured he was just drunk and I didn't get too worked up about it. He proceeds to follow me up the hill towards the door and tries to put his arm around me. This dude reeks, and he can't walk without wobbling and staggering, and he's slurring his words. As I try to dodge his arm, he says,
"Hey, what's wrong? You don't want to be friends? You don't want to be my friend?"
Trying to sound firm, I say, "Sorry, I have plenty of friends. I'm not interested. Have a nice night." I really didn't want to have him follow me into the building, so I'm trying to shake him off, but it doesn't work.
"Don't be like that,"
he whined.
"I'm just trying to be a nice guy. We should definitely be friends. Hey, where are you going?"
he called after me as I tried to scurry into the building. Before anyone points this out, yes, I would have called my boyfriend, but since I had been in class all day, my phone had already died. Drunk dude follows me into the building and proceeds to follow me into the elevator, something I'd been trying to avoid. He starts mashing the buttons, trying to lean on me and put his arm around me so he could pull me in for a hug. It got to the point where I told him to get the fuck off me and keep his hands to himself. Since drunk guy thought it was a good idea to mash the buttons, the elevator stops on the second floor, and there's another resident standing there looking confused at the situation. I shoot him a help me look, and he catches on. He walks into the elevator, which was enough to get drunk guy to finally leave. I get off 2 floors below my boyfriend's floor, glad to be rid of the dude. At that point, I just thought he was a very persistent drunk creep. Nothing too much out of the ordinary for a college-aged girl. I encounter them every weekend when I go out with my friends, and they're usually harmless. Taking up the 2 last flights of stairs, I breathe a sigh of relief as I walk into my boyfriend's apartment. I tell him what happened, and he got livid. So, to calm down, we locked the door and tried to forget about it, making some dinner, watching Netflix, the whole 9 yards. After everything that happened, I don't really feel up to walking back to my car, even though my boyfriend offered to walk with me, so I decided to just spend the night. We're in bed, sound asleep, and at 3:30 in the morning, I hear a loud bang on the front door. It wakes us both up, and we're bewildered as hell. Garrett creeps up to the peephole and whispers, "There's some guy standing out here. What the fuck?" As I get up to look, this dude is literally trying to tear the door open, rattling the knob as hard as he can, and then he throws his entire body weight up against the door. I start screaming that that's the same guy from earlier that followed me into the building. And then he says something that makes my blood run cold.
I know you can see me. Come on out and play.
We both back away from the door, freaking out. Then I start hearing this weird, heavy breathing. Wanting to see what the hell drunk guy is doing out there, I look out the peephole, and he has his hand down his pants, fondling himself. I jump back and tell Garrett. We ran back into the bedroom to grab our phones to call the cops, but when we looked at the peephole again, he was gone. I had to be at work at 8:30 the next day, so against my better judgment, I told my boyfriend not to call the cops after all. Part of me figured there's not much they could do since the only cameras are at the elevators, and it's not like they could have seen him jerking off or anything. As I'm leaving for work the next morning, my boyfriend's neighbor, who I'm friends with, is taking her dog out. I tell her what happened as we're taking the elevator down to the ground floor. "Was he a dirty blonde? Wearing khaki pants?" she asked. "That dude was sleeping in the hallway on the ground in between our apartments. My boyfriend saw him when he went to move his car at 6. I don't know how he knew what floor, much less what apartment I went into. He didn't know my name, nor my boyfriend's, and he was still on the elevator going up when I got off on the 4th floor. Creepy drunk asshole, let's not meet again." I was about 6 or 7 years old when this happened. I remember my grandmother picking me up from school early that day. I used to fake sick all the time to get away from being bullied. Whenever my grandmother would pick me up from school, we would almost always go to McDonald's. It's right by the interstate, and since we lived 30 minutes away from my school district, a snack was necessary. If we had time, she would let me play in the huge play place complexes. You know, the ones with the pink spiraling slide and that super high suspended netted bridge thing? She knew right away that I wasn't sick, so I fessed up that some kids had been calling me names and were threatening to beat me up at recess, so I made myself vomit in the hallway on the way back from lunch. I couldn't throw up on command. I put a gross concoction of whatever was left on my lunch tray into my mouth and masticated all the food, but held it in my mouth to spit up so I could really convince the teacher I was sick. It worked. That being said, I was very hungry, and a chicken McNugget and a cold Coke were the only things that could hit the spot. Nanny felt bad and decided to let me play by myself in the play place while she was ordering the food. Big mistake. I was young and very naive. I would literally be your best friend regardless of who or what you were. It wasn't until later in life when I got my wits about me. I walked into the play place and there was a man sitting at the lower entry to the complex, the one closest to the small green slide for the really little kids. He had a red, close-shaven beard and receding hairline. He shot me a smile and waved me over as I was walking in. School is in session, so no one is in the play place area, and I was thrilled that I had someone to play with. I was a fucking moron. I walked up to him like a sheep with a death wish. He said,
"Hey, buddy, did you want to go in here and play Follow the Leader with me?"
I eagerly told him yes, and he turned around quickly and entered the complex. I tried to follow him, but he was really fast. I could hear the loud shuffling of his large adult body navigating the small plastic tubes. He was climbing higher. I figured he was probably going to the pink slide at the very top of the structure, so I tried to find a better way to beat him up there. I made my way across the netted bridge and around the 180-degree turn to see the green tube that goes up to the pink slide. For some reason, I started getting little chill bumps all over, and generally just felt kind of creeped. It was like some primal sense had been suddenly turned on, and I was awake. Despite my feeling, I stupidly began inching my way forward to play follow the leader, which, obviously, I'm not very good at. As I got up to the green tube, I could see half of him in a crouched position at the landing to the pink slide. He says,
"Aren't you gonna follow me?"
I lean closer to move up the tube when I hear Nanny screaming my name. She had a note of concern that I had never heard in her voice before. I look up and see the man's smile go to an expressionless face. His hand that was waving forward moved back down on the mat, and he just looked at me. I looked back at him, and for a second, I felt something more sinister than a game was being played. I turned around and bolted to the other side of the compound, expecting him to be hot on my trail, but he wasn't. I made it to the exit that had you climb down platforms to get out of the complex. I could see Nanny and a few employees standing in the play area. She frantically asked me what was going on. She had seen a man moving through the structure and knew that I was there alone. I told her that I was just playing follow the leader and that I was fine. I actually wanted to go back and finish playing at this point, despite the way I had just felt. Fucking idiot. Nanny told the employees that adults should not be playing in there with children if they didn't have any of their own, and grabbed me by the arm and left. I got my nuggets, but we didn't get to go back to that McDonald's for about a month. Looking back on it, I can't believe how stupid I was and the potential danger I put myself in. This McDonald's was right off of I-40, and that guy could have been up to some nefarious shit. Or maybe he just really wanted to play follow the leader. Whatever the case, creepy guy who plays in children's play areas, let's not meet again. I have a very stable job, and a very good one at that. But sometimes you just need extra money, right? I'm currently moving into a newer, bigger, and nicer apartment, so I've been making some down payments and using my extra money to move. By no means am I broke, but it's nice to earn some extra cash. I thought of selling some clothes that I never wear. I'd already donated a lot of older stuff to the Salvation Army, but for the clothes I never wore and that are worth some good cash, I decided to sell over Craigslist and the LetGo app. LetGo has never failed me. Craigslist, well, I never tried it before, but my friends have had some great experiences. I was trying to sell a very cute, short-sleeve, black and white flower dress for $12. I put my number down in the ad so I could just talk to people directly, because I don't use my email all that often. In the ad, I had posted a picture of me in the dress, not showing my face, with a blank white wall background behind me. I got a text a couple hours after I posted the ad. Here's how the conversation went. "Hey, I saw your dress on sale. Is it still available?" "Yes, it is." "It's kind of hard to see the dress in the picture you posted. Do you have any more pictures of you in the dress?" I sent back a picture of the dress on a hanger, one picture close up for detail, and the other to see the full dress. I asked for pictures with it on. "I'll just look at the ad tomorrow." I didn't respond back. It was a little alarming to have someone talk to me like that. Why would they want to see the dress on? I mean, I guess I understand, but really? 2 days later, I got a weird phone call at 5 after 7 in the morning. This was my day off, but I usually keep my ringer on because I'm always on call for work. To see that it wasn't my job and an unknown caller, I was pretty pissed, so I just let it ring. They call back right after. I sighed and cleared my throat to answer. Hello? A raspy, gargled man's voice was on the other end of the line.
Yeah, hello. Are you the one selling the dress?
I am, yes.
I'm calling for my wife, but I have some questions.
In my head, I'm like, what the fuck? But I just go with it.
My name's Mark, and yours?
I almost thought, dude, am I being prank called? It was pretty frustrating because I told him my name and spelled it about 20 times. We get over introductions and he gets into the questioning.
Is this a thick dress?
It is.
Can it be worn as a fancy dinner dress?
It can be. You can wear it casual or dress it up.
Okay, how tall are you?
I'm 5'3".
Okay, so, my wife's pretty short and about your height. Do you wear a bra with the dress?
She can wear it with or without one. Mark continues to push if I've ever worn a bra with the dress, and I start getting short with my answers.
Where are you right now? I feel like I woke you up.
It obviously wasn't a good idea to tell him the truth, so I lied just to cover myself. Yeah, I'm at a friend's right now.
A girlfriend's?
A friend's. I'm just not home, okay?
Did you sleep in the same bed as her?
Can we please move on? I'm just not at home right now. His phone cut out, but he called back about a minute later.
Sorry, my phone died. So, anyway, what cup size are you?
Excuse me? I don't feel comfortable answering that.
B or C?
I'm not answering that question.
You look big-breasted. Very gifted. My wife has ass, do you?
I don't want to answer this. You're making me feel very uncomfortable. I'm going to hang up.
Does the dress right up your back? When you walk, does it show your ass?
Infuriated, I hung up. Mark proceeded to call me again and again, but it wasn't like I could block his number because it was unknown. By the 20th call, I answered to tell him off. Listen, I don't feel like
You know, I know where you live. I want that dress.
I hung up and cried. I didn't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I would understand if a guy wanted a dress for his own pleasure, sexual or not, but at least be honest with me. Don't act like your wife needs one. Did he have a wife? Why couldn't she call me herself? I don't know. I just have so many questions. I'm legit scared, and this number won't stop calling me. I even got an email that's not related to this about a guy named Mr. Anonymous asking for smelly old flats. Is this normal for Craigslist? Mark, please, let's not ever meet. This happened when I was 15 and living in Florida. Our neighborhood was just a one-loop cul-de-sac down the road from a much larger neighborhood. Even though our neighborhood was pretty nice, the town in general was, well, it didn't look all that bad, but it had a lot of trashy people and criminal activity. My stepbrother and I were the only ones waiting at our bus stop, which was at the entrance to our neighborhood. We didn't get along and really didn't like each other, so much so that we walked to the bus stop on separate sides of the road and stood on opposite sides until the bus arrived. One morning, a big black truck exiting the neighborhood pulled up between us. I had never seen the truck or the man driving it before, so I'm pretty sure he didn't live in our neighborhood. Even though there was no traffic, he made no move to leave. He was just staring at me, which started to make me extremely uncomfortable. After about a minute, he leaned out the window and said,
"Hey, you want to ride around with me?"
At this point, I was extremely freaked out, and I felt my face get red and hot. I told him no and that I had to go to school. He said,
"Are you sure? You can just skip school and ride around with me."
I tried to be as loud as possible, hoping he might be scared that someone would see and hear us. Again, I told him no and that I was going to school and that he needed to leave me alone. Major stranger danger. The man didn't say anything else, but he still wouldn't leave. He just sat there, continuing to stare at me. After what seemed like an eternity, the bus pulled around the corner and he finally took off. I was so shaken up. There is no way my stepbrother didn't notice what happened. He was right on the other side of the truck and he never said a word. On the bus ride home that afternoon, I saw the same truck sitting outside the entrance to the neighborhood. I almost started crying at the sight of that truck. At our stop, my stepbrother got off, but I didn't. I couldn't believe he was just taking off without me. As the bus pulled away, again, so did the truck. Since the truck was now out of sight, I told the bus driver that I missed my stop, and he let me off a little ways from my neighborhood. As soon as I got off that bus, I booked it back to my house. I never told anyone, not until recently. I was just too freaked. So, creepy man in the black truck, I hope we never meet again. When I was a kid, I had a pug that I loved to take for walks every afternoon along some nature paths near my house. Every day there was this strange older man who looked to be in his 50s who conveniently took walks along those same paths at the same time I would walk my dog. I never thought much of it, that is, until I started noticing him taking pictures of me and my house. One day, during one of my walks, I hear this freak snap a picture of me. I, with my loud mouth, whip around and shout, "What the fuck, man? Fuck off!" This creep proceeds to just stare at me for about 10 seconds and then took off. The next day, this man is behind me yet again, but this time he's rattling off a bunch of my personal information. When I played my baseball games, the time and location of the after-school activities I attended, and stuff like that. Trying to be a tough guy, I think, what a freak, and do my best to brush it off. After a week of this creep following me around, rattling off more and more of my personal information, he starts sounding more and more aggressive, giving off an extremely odd vibe. In the days that followed, he started popping up around me, just saying,
"Hey, little boy,"
in a weird, mock-happy tone, to which I'd just reply, "Go away, man," and try to forget about it. By now, my little superhero pug had begun growling at him. Good boy. Things were quiet for a while, and I thought that this freak had finally had enough of harassing me. Until one day, he stormed towards me and screamed,
"Hello, little boy,"
in an enraged voice, and then pulls out a fucking monster-sized machete, just staring at me like a maniac, clicking it threateningly against the sidewalk. I froze for what felt like hours until this psycho started to rush me and I ran. I ran faster than I ever have before, and thankfully, my dog kept pace with me and didn't hold me back. As I'm running, I break down crying, hearing this man shrieking,
"Come here, little boy!"
I'm sprinting at full fucking speed until I get to my house and slam the door shut. Psycho Machete Man reaches my door just seconds after I had shut and locked it, and starts dragging that fucking machete across it, a terrifying grin on his face that I will never be able to unsee. I start screaming for my dad, and when Machete Psycho hears this, he finally takes off. After a while, my dad gets me to calm down and says that from now on, he'll walk with me. As my dad and I are walking the dog the next day, we see a car filled with pictures of me, which I can only assume was Machete Psycho's. My dad flips the fuck out, flinging rocks at the window and swearing. After he cools off, we head back home, and we never saw that fucking freak again, thank God. So, pedo creep with a machete, let's never meet again.